at 12 noon, and I see that we have the mayor present. I would now like to recognize the mayor to discuss our review of the Confederate monuments and what symbols we think should represent our community best. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President, members of the council, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to visit with you today. As a city and as a nation, we are a work in progress. As we seek to become a more perfect union, what makes us special as Americans is that we define ourselves not by our past, but by the constant struggle to achieve the aspirations enshrined in our founding creed, that we are all created equal. And it is this uniquely American spirit, and in it, that we prepare for 2018 and our 300th anniversary as a city. Post-Katrina, together, we are building the city back not the way it was. We're building it back the way we dreamed that she always should be. The people of New Orleans, through the Welcome Table for Racial Reconciliation, have already started to do this hard work, chipping away ever so slowly at the walls that divide us, literally bringing together a diverse array of people to talk, to eat, to share, and to build trust. Now, in that same spirit, I'm again calling on the people of the city of New Orleans. I come before you today to discuss the relocation of 4 monuments in prominent areas throughout New Orleans. They include the Robert E. Lee statue at Lee Circle, the Jefferson Davis statue on Jeff Davis Parkway, the PGT Beauregard equestrian statue on Esplanade Avenue at the entrance of City Park, and the Battle of Liberty Place monument at Iberville Street. I'm also proposing to rename Jeff Davis Parkway to Dr. Norman C. Francis Parkway. Today, with your assistance, we will launch a 60-day period that, through facilitated conversations and public meetings, using the Welcome Table, the Human Relations Commission, and the City Council, where we, the people of New Orleans, will find a way forward in regard to these 4 Confederate monuments. It is my sincere hope that every mother and father will talk at the kitchen table with their children and their families about this, that we discuss it in neighborhood meetings, that we talk about it in our collective community meetings that we're going to hold in the next coming weeks, at church on Sunday, and walking in the park every other day. How we discuss this is important as what we discuss. Hopefully we will do so in a civil and a thoughtful manner that exemplifies who we are as a people with mutual respect. But I want to be clear. Here is what I believe. To maintain these symbols as we move towards our future seems to belie our progress and does not reflect who we truly are or who we want to be. I ask you, how can we expect to inspire a nation when our most prominent public spaces are dedicated to the reverence of those who fight for bondage and supremacy of our fellow Americans? These ideals have never really belonged in a city as great as New Orleans, and whose lifeblood flows from our richness and our diversity. This is about more than Robert E. Lee the man, or PGT Beauregard, or Jefferson Davis, or the White League. This discussion isn't really even about them. It's about us. It's about the people of New Orleans and our beloved city. These monuments were built to reinforce the false valor of a war that was fought over slavery. But our city has always been a city of diversity and inclusion. These monuments were erected at a time when supremacy was the order of the day in much of the South. But a lot has changed since the Civil War. Many groups and individuals did not have a voice when these monuments were first erected. Now they do, and they should be heard. Their perspectives are important as we seek to remember the breadth and sweep of our entire history, not just a small part with a narrow view. Supremacy may be part of our past, but it should not be part of our future. Consider this. New Orleans is nearly 300 years old and was founded 150 years before the Civil War ever occurred. Our identity is much broader and richer than the symbols of Confederate times. So our history before and after the Civil War should not be neglected, nor identity defined simply by the Confederacy. At our best, we are a place where diversity is our strength, a place where all are welcome, a place where symbols should inspire and include, not divide, a place where we celebrate life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not death, not war, not slavery. That is not to say that we should erase or uproot our past. We simply cannot do that. As a Southern city, we should not look away from our history. Rather, this is about fully reckoning with our past. So let's talk for a second about the most prominent of these monuments, the statue of Robert E. Lee. He was a Confederate general for the Army of North Virginia. He had little or no connection to the city of New Orleans. His statue was placed at what was then Tivoli Circle nearly 20 years after the Civil War, shortly following his death, to commemorate, and I quote, the cult of the lost cause, close quote. Now, while I agree that Lee is an important historical figure and that he should be remembered in the right context as part of history, I do not believe that his place in the history of New Orleans should be revered. There is a big difference. The question is whether this prominent circle is the appropriate place to commemorate and learn about the general in his place in history, whether this space should be reserved for something that represents the fullness of who we are and who we want to be. And to all those who think that General Lee's statue should not be relocated and the other monuments should remain in place, or think that it doesn't really matter, I would ask you to respectfully consider the question from another perspective. Think about a 10-year-old African-American girl learning about her place in the world and in her history. In 2015, we hope that this girl knows that her potential is limitless and that the sins of the past do not define her future. But imagine her looking up at General Lee on the top of that beautiful, ornate pedestal. What might she think when she asks her dad to explain who he is and why he is there, commemorating the cult of the lost cause, and how her city still maintains a public space specifically designed to glorify and celebrate white supremacy? That's hard to explain. Her likely reaction is obvious. I think it would be better if this young American could see something that would make her feel proud of her city and inspire her to her greatness. So again, relocating these 4 Confederate memorials is not about these individual historic figures, but about the broader context of the monuments themselves, how they fit into our history, and how they inspire us or don't today. That is the point. And I believe that we ignore it at our peril. Throughout our history, some refuse to change, or are cynical and believe that we cannot change, that our division is somehow part of the natural order of things. I think this is a lie. Time and time again, we prove the doubters wrong. There is nothing that we cannot do, but only if we make a commitment to listen to each other, see each other, feel each other, hear each other, and stay united as one. Uniquely American, e pluribus unum, out of many, one. After all, this work is an extension of the struggle that is American history. Indeed, in 1776, the words of the Declaration of Independence rang hollow to many living at that time, and must have been especially ironic to the individual in bondage and or slavery. For them, neither liberty nor equality were in reach. We must never forget our history. Those who do will be condemned to repeat it. Therefore, we should place these statutes in proper place and in proper context. Simply stated, remembrance, yes. Reverence, no. We should seize this moment and do our part to remove these symbols of supremacy from places of reverence that no longer reflect who we are, if they ever did. This is how we together choose to build our city back, not the way it was, but the way we always dreamed she should be. I believe that New Orleans is a place where the original vision of America rings authentic and true, that all men are created equal. However, make no mistake, these statutes and symbols that reflect the opposite of our shared American values have no place where they are today. And so, members of the council, I'll leave you with this. The moral arc of history bends, as it usually does, towards justice, but it does not bend on its own. That, my friends, is left to us. And my plea to you today is to let's start building it together towards our shared future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.